Have you ever felt like you're spinning your wheels, working hard, doing everything, but still stuck in the same place? What if the real reason you're not growing isn't because you're lazy, but because you're clinging to the version of you that feels familiar, even if it's slowly draining your soul? And what if the hardest part of change isn't the effort, but the terrifying realization that stepping into your true potential means letting go of every excuse you've ever used to stay small? Most people don't fail because they're not trying hard enough. They fail because they're caught in a loop, busy doing everything except the very thing that would set them free. You say you want to grow, to level up, to become the best version of yourself. But if that's true, then why does the idea of real change sting so deeply? Why does breaking free from old habits, cutting ties with toxic people, or walking away from the comfortable chaos of your current life feel like tearing off your own skin? Maybe it's not failure you fear. Maybe it's the weight of your own potential. The idea that if you stepped into it, you'd have to stop pretending, stop hiding, stop saying someday. No more blaming your circumstances. No more waiting for the perfect time. Just you and the life you've been avoiding. Let's be honest, staying the same is easier. Familiar pain is more manageable than unfamiliar power. But here's the caution. It's not the hustle that's wearing you out. It's the heaviness of carrying a version of yourself that no longer fits who you are becoming. The Stoics understood this far better than most. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." It's not about saying you'll change. It's about living the change right here, right now. This video isn't about cosmetic upgrades or shallow motivation. We're going deeper. We're stripping away what's false and rebuilding from the inside out. Using the enduring wisdom of Stoicism, paired with practical tools that work in real life. No hype, no hustle, just clarity and truth. And if you're thinking of skipping ahead, don't. Every part of this is designed to connect, to build layer by layer. If you've ever felt stuck, like you were meant for more but couldn't quite reach it, stay with me. This could be exactly the moment you've been needing. If what we're doing here helps you see yourself a little more clearly, if it gets you one step closer to the life you're meant to live, do me one simple favor. Tap that subscribe button. It's free, but it means everything. Let's take this next step together. Because here's the thing, most people aren't lost because they're lazy. They're lost because they're unclear, drifting from one distraction to the next. Texts, deadlines, social drama, without ever stopping to ask the one question that really matters. Once you stop waiting for someone else to give you direction, you begin reclaiming your own power. That's where transformation really begins. You stop needing permission. You stop craving validation. You no longer outsource your confidence to the opinions of others. That's what it truly means to bet on yourself. And yes, it's uncomfortable, it's vulnerable, it's raw, but above all else, it's necessary. Because self-belief doesn't require certainty, it requires courage. It's not about knowing every step before you begin. It's about daring to move before the map is complete. It's saying yes to the challenge, launching the business, joining the gym, applying for the job, writing that first chapter, even when you feel wildly unqualified. Why? Because here's a little secret. Most people are winging it. The difference is, some get started anyway, while others stay frozen, obsessing over plans they'll never execute. Of course, you'll feel shaky. You'll doubt yourself. That's part of the process. Confidence isn't a magical switch you flip. It's a skill. One that grows every time you push past fear and do the thing you told yourself you couldn't. Like building strength in the gym, belief grows through reps. The more you challenge that voice in your head, the one that says you're not ready, the weaker it becomes. And when that voice shows up again, you meet it with action. You say, maybe I'm not ready, but I'm going anyway. Betting on yourself doesn't mean you'll never fall. It means you'll finally stop treating failure like it's the end of the road. It means you're done sitting in the bleachers watching life pass you by. Because here's a tough but honest question. If you don't believe in your story, why should anyone else? This isn't about arrogance, it's about ownership. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to stop letting fear run the show. You are your own best investment. And the return on that investment, that's when everything begins to shift. But let's get real. Goal setting has become this overhyped, stress-fueled ritual. People write down 10 giant things to do, and when they're not all completed by Friday, cue the shame spiral. Sound familiar? We've all done it. One day you're fired up and you write, wake up at 4 a.m., meditate for an hour, run 5 miles, write a novel, and make quinoa for lunch. But by day 2, you're back to smashing the snooze button and questioning your entire life. Why does that happen? Because those goals weren't designed for your real life. They were made for some fantasy version of you. The one who doesn't get tired, doesn't have off days, and somehow thrives on chaos. That's not motivation. That's self-sabotage in disguise. The Stoics had a better way. Epictetus said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Notice how it begins, with clarity, not pressure. Goals shouldn't drain you. They should guide you. That's where micro goals come in. Tiny wins, small reps, simple habits. So small they might even feel silly, until one day you look up and realize you've changed. Want to improve your health? Don't start by training for a marathon. Start by walking around the block after dinner. Want to become a reader? Don't force yourself through a dense philosophy book in one sitting. Just read one page. 1. Because your brain doesn't believe in change until it sees proof. And those small wins? That's the proof. They whisper, you're doing it. You're becoming the kind of person who does this. And when your identity starts to shift, big changes no longer feel out of reach. Carl Jung believed that real transformation doesn't happen through sudden enlightenment, but through consistent engagement with the often overlooked moments of daily life. When you show up for your small goals, especially when no one's watching, you begin to build something sacred, self-trust. And self-trust is the foundation for everything else. But here's the key. Your goals need to match your current energy and reality, not your ego. Be honest about what season of life you're in. Some seasons are for sprinting, others for rebuilding slowly, patiently. Don't confuse patience with passivity. Progress is still progress, even when it's quiet. So set goals that honor your humanity. Goals that make space for tired mornings, unexpected detours, and messy days. The more realistic your goals feel, the more likely you are to keep showing up. And consistency, not dramatic leaps, is what creates momentum. You don't need to shock your system. You just need to stop quitting on yourself every time things aren't perfect. Let's face it, waiting until you feel like it is the fastest route to never doing it. We all know that spark of motivation. It comes, it goes. One day you're planning your new routine like a productivity wizard. The next, you can't even text someone back. That's real, that's human. But growth? Growth doesn't care how you feel. The people who go further aren't fueled by constant inspiration. They're driven by discipline, by commitment, by something deeper than just feeling ready. Marcus Aurelius said it perfectly. At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. That's the Stoic way. Duty over mood. You show up, not because you feel pumped, but because that's who you're training yourself to be. Think about it. When you brush your teeth, write that email, or do that workout, you're not just completing a task. You're casting a vote for the person you want to become. Every action, no matter how small, is shaping your identity. You've learned to show up for your goals. Now it's time to show up for yourself. Even when it's hard, even when it's uncomfortable. Carl Jung talked about the integration of the shadow, the hidden parts of ourselves that we avoid, suppress, or pretend don't exist. And here's the truth. Showing up when you're tired, unmotivated, anxious, or overwhelmed, that is shadow work. It's the moment when you look your resistance in the eye and say, you're coming with me anyway. Because real self-mastery isn't about waiting to be in the right mood. It's about staying true to your direction, even on the days when every part of you screams. Let's just scroll through our feed instead. Let's be honest. If you only act when it feels easy, you're building your life on the most fragile foundation possible, your emotions. And emotions, as powerful as they are, shift like weather. They're clear skies one moment, a thunderstorm the next. But actions, habits, they're like bricks. They build, they last. They don't rely on perfect conditions. So start showing up even when it's messy. Even if it's just a 5-minute walk, a single healthy meal, one honest sentence in your journal. These small acts carry weight. They create momentum. They help align your identity with your intention. When you whisper, I'm too tired, but still do it anyway, that's not just a small win. That's power. That's how you become someone who is undeniable. Do not wait for a lightning bolt of motivation to magically move you. Be the lightning. Be the person who shows up in the rain, in the fog, when no one is cheering you on. That's where trust is forged. That's when progress becomes inevitable. That's also the moment when you stop being the person who talks about changing and start being the one who actually does. Let's be real. If growth felt good, everyone would be doing it. But the truth is, most people don't grow because they want the reward without the discomfort. They want confidence without vulnerability, strength without struggle, success without sacrifice. But that's not how it works. Growth is supposed to feel uncomfortable. It has to be, because it's in the tension, the friction, the messiness that we are reshaped. That's where transformation lives. That's where we become wiser, stronger, and more whole. The Stoics knew this deeply. Seneca wrote, difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. They didn't see adversity as punishment. They saw it as preparation. Think of it like this. A sculptor doesn't resent the resistance of the marble. That resistance is what allows him to shape it. You are the marble, and life is the sculptor. Every awkward conversation, failed attempt, or moment that pulls you out of your comfort zone is another precise stroke of the chisel. Jung once said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." That wasn't exaggeration. It was truth. If you're not willing to sit with discomfort, you're not ready to wake up. Transformation isn't some perfect, glowing highlight reel. It's gritty. It's raw. It's the process of breaking down what no longer serves you, unlearning what's held you back, and rebuilding piece by piece. It's being okay with not having all the answers. It's standing in the middle of the unknown and still choosing to move forward anyway. It's facing a fear that makes your hands shake and doing the thing anyway. Think back to a real challenge you faced, one that tested you, your patience, your pride, maybe even your identity. At the time, it probably felt like the universe was against you. But now, from where you are, what did it give you? Maybe it pushed you to set stronger boundaries. Maybe it forced you to speak up for yourself. Maybe it revealed a strength you didn't even know was there. That's the hidden gift of discomfort. It introduces you to parts of yourself that comfort never could. So next time resistance shows up, don't run from it. Lean in, ask it, "What are you here to teach me? What's this pressure trying to carve out of me?" Because pressure doesn't only arrive to crush you. Sometimes it shows up to carve you, to strip away the layers that no longer serve you, and reveal the real you underneath. Discomfort is not your enemy. It's the doorman to every version of yourself you haven't met yet. And once you understand that, you stop fearing the stretch. You start welcoming it, because deep down you know. You weren't meant to stay the same. You were born to evolve. In the last section, we talked about how discomfort reshapes you. But that change doesn't stick without habits to hold it in place. Transformation isn't just about mindset. It's about what you do consistently, even when no one's watching. Here's the truth. Until you bring your unconscious patterns into the light, they'll keep running the show, and you'll keep calling it fate. Your daily habits are simply physical reflections of your internal beliefs. So if your routines feel chaotic, avoidant, numbing, or passive, it doesn't mean you're lazy. It means a part of you is still aligned with the old version of yourself. But here's the opportunity. Habits are how you begin to rewrite that outdated script. So what's the move? Don't try to overhaul everything overnight. Just pick one habit, only one. Make it so simple, so doable, that your mind can't find a reason to say no. Maybe it's 5 minutes of journaling before bed, drinking a glass of water before your morning coffee, turning off your phone 1 hour before sleep, stretching instead of scrolling, saying no to something you always say yes to out of guilt. Whatever it is, make it easy. Not to lower the bar, but to raise your follow-through. Because this isn't about perfection. It's about reinforcing identity. Every time you show up for that small habit, you're casting a vote for who you're becoming. You're whispering to your nervous system, "We're safe. We're growing. This is who I am now." And here's the beautiful part. Small wins compound. Like stacking bricks day by day, repetition by repetition. You look up one day and realize you've built a whole new foundation, not by forcing it through sheer willpower, but by design, by making conscious choices on both your strong days and your weak ones. That's where the real power is. So, if you want to become someone different, don't wait until you feel like that person. Start acting like them now. Let your habits lead. Let them carry you through the resistance. Because the version of you you've been trying to reach, they're waiting just beyond today's choices. Every tiny habit is a doorway. Step through it, one simple action at a time. Now let's talk about something that holds most people back. Failure. Just hearing the word makes some people shrink. Why? Because we've been conditioned to fear it, to avoid it, to hide from it like it's some neon sign flashing. Not good enough. But here's the truth. Failure isn't a verdict. It's proof you had the courage to try. It's a sign that, unlike most people, you actually showed up. The Stoics had zero patience for the drama we attach to failure. They didn't view it as shameful. They saw it as inevitable, even valuable. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to think, to enjoy, to love, and yes, to fail. Because failure isn't a detour from the path. It is the path. Every misstep, every awkward moment, rejection, or breakdown, that's data. That's insight. That's your life saying, here's where the work still is." Carl Jung put it powerfully. Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people. When you fail, you meet your ego, your insecurities, your blind spots. But what if, instead of hiding from those parts, you leaned in? What if you used failure not to shame yourself, but to understand yourself? The goal was never to avoid mistakes, it was to mine them for wisdom. Think back. What's a time something in your life went sideways? A goal that collapsed, a conversation that went wrong, a risk that didn't pay off. At the time, it probably felt like everything was falling apart. But now, was it really failure? Or was it a turning point? A teacher in disguise? Here's the thing. Real failure only happens when you refuse to learn. When you let it define you instead of refine you. Failing smart means asking better questions. Not, why am I such a mess? But what is this moment trying to show me? Not, I'll never get this right, but what can I try differently next time? That shift is everything. That's how you take pain and turn it into a plan. Let's be clear, this isn't about romanticizing struggle. Failing still hurts. It bruises your pride. It rattles your confidence. But once you stop taking it personally, you can start using it professionally. You become the kind of person who falls 7 times, but gets up 8. Not because you're fearless, but because you understand what the fall was for. So don't be afraid to mess up. Be afraid of staying the same. Be afraid of letting the fear of failure trap you in a life that's way too small for your potential. Your bounce-back ability, your willingness to stand up, learn and try again, that is your real superpower. So fail forward, fail boldly, fail in the direction of your growth, because that's not falling apart, that's leveling up. We just talked about how small habits and failures shape you, but your environment, it shapes you just as much, sometimes even more. Seneca once said, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you. Welcome those whom you are capable of improving." The process is a mutual one. We learn as we teach. Your circle should elevate you, not just entertain you. You don't need perfect people, but you do need intentional ones. Those who do the work, take responsibility, and don't flinch when growth gets uncomfortable. If your environment is soaked in gossip, blame, and mediocrity, don't fool yourself into thinking it's neutral. It's toxic, and over time you will absorb it. quietly, unconsciously, without even realizing it. Carl Jung warned of the collective unconscious, the subtle but powerful psychological patterns we inherit from the groups we're a part of. If you're surrounded by people who dodge responsibility, play the victim, or live in constant complaint, you won't be immune. Not because you're weak, but because you're human. We mirror the energy around us. We adapt. We match. So if you're serious about growth, you have to start treating your inner circle like sacred ground. Because it is. Now let's be clear. Editing your circle doesn't mean being cold. It's not about ghosting people or cutting them off without compassion. It's about alignment. Ask yourself, are these people helping me become more honest, more disciplined, more alive? Or are they encouraging the parts of me I've been trying to outgrow? Sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is outgrow someone without resenting them. You can still love someone and recognize that their energy no longer aligns with where you're headed. That's where solitude comes in. Most people fear being alone, not because it's dangerous, but because they've never learned to use it. But solitude, when practiced with intention, is powerful. It's where you realign with your values, where you remember who you are, without all the background noise. As the saying goes, if you can't change the people around you, change the people around you. Because let's face it, silence is better than chaos. Peace is better than fake support. And being alone is 1,000 times better than being surrounded by people who secretly root for your stagnation. So do a quiet audit of your life. No drama, no announcements, just honest reflection. Who energizes you? Who drains you? Who challenges you to grow? And who keeps you stuck, even subtly? Upgrade accordingly. You don't need to apologize for protecting your energy. Your environment is either helping you evolve or keeping you on repeat, and you get to decide what soundtrack plays next. Now let's shift focus inward for a moment. Have you ever noticed how your brain loves to replay what went wrong? That one awkward moment, the missed opportunity, the thing you should have said but didn't. We fixate on the flaws, on gaps instead of gains. Some of that is survival instinct, the mind's way of scanning for danger, preparing us for pain, but left unchecked, it becomes toxic. If you only ever measure what's missing, you'll never feel like you're enough. You'll miss how far you've already come. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." That's not just poetry. That's a practice, a mindset shift. Gratitude doesn't ignore your pain. It balances your lens. It says, yes, life is hard, but look what's still here. Look what's still possible. Abundance isn't something you'll find someday. It's already woven into the ordinary. You just have to pause long enough to notice. Carl Jung believed that perception shapes reality. What you focus on expands. If you constantly zoom in on the chaos, your life will feel chaotic. But if you start spotting moments of beauty, connection, or even slight progress, your nervous system recalibrates. You stop living in panic. You start living in presence. Try this simple habit. At the end of each day, write down 3 wins. They don't have to be life-changing. Maybe you drank more water. Maybe you said no when you usually say yes. Maybe you didn't spiral after that tough conversation. That's a win. Maybe you just got out of bed when it felt easier to hide. That's a win too. Don't underestimate the quiet victories. They're often the ones that change you the most. Gratitude isn't just a feel-good moment. It's a discipline, a mental training. It rewires your brain to search for hope. And no, it doesn't mean you slap a smile on your struggles. Stoicism isn't about pretending things are fine. It's about integration. It teaches us that joy and hardship can exist in the same breath. You can be grateful and grieving, healing and hopeful, lost, and still able to appreciate the sun on your skin or a warm cup of tea in your hands. So stop waiting for your life to be perfect before you feel proud. Look around. What's working? What have you survived? What can you appreciate right now without needing anything to change? Because when you count your wins, no matter how small, you give yourself permission to feel worthy. And that's not fluff. That's power. We just explored the power of gratitude and presence, but here's a trap many people still fall into, thinking that growth has a finish line. We've been sold a subtle illusion that if we just read enough books, hit the right milestones, master the perfect routine, we'll finally arrive. We'll be complete, fixed, done. But here's the truth no one likes to admit. There is no final form. There's no magical point where the work is over, where struggle disappears, where everything clicks into place forever. Growth doesn't end. There's no level you beat, no version of you that unlocks permanent clarity or unshakable peace. Personal evolution? It's not a checklist, it's a lifestyle. You don't become your best self once. You keep becoming, again and again. That's the real journey, not perfection, not completion, ongoing transformation. The Stoics understood this deeply. They never aimed to become finished. They focused on becoming disciplined, humble, and forever teachable. Epictetus said it best. It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. The moment you start believing you've got it all figured out, that's the moment you stop growing. And let's be honest, that mindset is dangerous. It breeds ego. It blinds you to your blind spots. It keeps you comfortable. And unchecked comfort, that slowly becomes stagnation. Carl Jung echoed this warning. To him, wholeness wasn't about achieving some polished ideal. It was about constantly integrating the parts of ourselves we tend to ignore. The shadows, the doubts, the broken dreams we quietly buried. Leveling up isn't just about getting stronger. It's about getting truer, more grounded, more honest, more real. That's the kind of growth that doesn't just tweak your habits, it transforms your entire life. So how do you keep leveling up? You stay curious. You stay humble enough to say, I don't know everything. You keep reading the books, asking the hard questions, trying the thing that scares you. You let discomfort lead, not stop you. Because every time you stretch beyond what's familiar, you expand. Not just in skill, but in soul. You start to feel more you, more capable, more at peace. And no, it won't always be about massive leaps. Sometimes growth looks like rest, like saying no, like walking away from something that once defined you. Sometimes leveling up means releasing the version of yourself that was always trying to prove something to everyone. That too is evolution. So if you ever catch yourself thinking, I should be further along by now, pause. That voice is comparing you to a version of success that doesn't even exist. There is no finish line. There are only stages, new chapters, new challenges, new versions of you waiting to be discovered. And you don't need to sprint through them. You just need to keep moving. Keep questioning, keep becoming, because you're not here to stay the same. You're here to stretch, to stumble, to rise, to learn, unlearn, and relearn. And every time you do, you unlock a deeper, more powerful version of who you're meant to be. The journey of becoming your best self isn't flashy. It's not loud or glamorous. It's forged in quiet choices, in small moments of courage, in the decision to keep going when comfort calls you back. Growth isn't a destination, it's a way of living. If this message stirred something in you, there's more waiting. Check out one of the suggested videos now showing on screen. It might just hold the next breakthrough you've been searching for. And as always, thank you for being a part of Stoic Journal. Until next time, keep becoming.